It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Lock Havens head field hockey coach, Coach Anna Rogers. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college field hockey?
Well, when I was younger, I lived on a live-in military campus. My dad was a teacher and he was also a coach. So I would follow him around and he actually built the baseball field that they had there. So he coached basketball and baseball and soccer. So I grew up watching him coach, and my grandfather coached as well. And I fell in love with sports instantly, and I could not wait to start to play myself. I wanted to be just like my dad. It was essentially, I think he had two little boys instead of a boy and a girl because I didn't want anything to do with dolls and things of that nature. So as soon as I started playing sports, I knew that I wanted to help people out and I would help those that might be struggling a little bit more. I like to give my opinion before it was even asked. So I think for a very long time, I knew that I wanted to stay in sports and I wanted to coach. That young of an age, I didn't realize that there was anything to it. You look at these people and you're like, oh, I have a coach. And you really don't think anything about it at all. So I knew when I got to high school and I started to think about college and where I was going and what I was going to major in. There's two things in school that I liked, and that was lunch and recess and gym class. So I guess that's three. In high school, you don't have recess, but in elementary school, it was recess. So I needed to choose a major because I didn't want to stop playing sports. So I knew that I was going to be going to college to play. So I had to find something that would encompass those things that I really enjoyed. So I went to school to be a PE teacher. Um, I think if I would go back, I would do nutrition and strength training because I learned in college that I really loved weightlifting. Um, and but again, at that point, you don't realize what careers you can have until someone you know has that career. So in college, we had to work camp over the summer, and we would have 5 camps over the summer. That was a big fundraiser at Old Dominion, and I knew that I was good at it, and I really loved helping and coaching. And I think that's where I decided that I wanted to not only coach, but when I do something, I want to try to get to the highest level, which is why I ended up at Old Dominion. And I chose the best because I wanted to be the best. And then when it came to coaching, I wanted to work my way to coming to the highest level. And um, and I did that right after college. I went to Elmira College, which was Division 3, and on I was first interviewed for a GA position, and I had received that. And during the same phone call, they let me know that the head field hockey coach had resigned and asked if I wanted to apply. And of course, I see a challenge, and I accepted. And I came back for an interview to be the head field hockey coach at Elmira. So coaching is something that I knew I wanted to do at a young age, and I didn't quite lay out a plan on how I was going to get there. I just believe that when you want something and you work for it and you work hard for that goal, that you will get there. And sometimes it's a roundabout way, which was my way. But I was able to get where I wanted to. Um, in at 39 years old. So
What was that experience like going to Old Dominion and playing college field hockey?
it was amazing. I can remember when I received, back then, we weren't doing, recruiting was much different. We weren't doing videos. Um, I think some people had started, but they would have been on VHS tape that were being sent out. And my dad saved and still has every single newspaper clipping that I was in, every award that I got, and he created these massive packets that went out to all these top field hockey schools. I don't even know how I knew what was a top field hockey school back then, but I did know about Old Dominion because two of my teammates had, well, first, Becky Loy from our school had gone and she came back and spoke to our team because she had gone her freshman year to win a national championship. And she came back and talked to us. And at that point, I was like, yep, that's where I want to go. I won a national championship. That's where I'm going. So her sister, Angie Loy, who played on the national team, was 2 years older than me. She was getting recruited by Old Dominion, and we would go to team camp there. And that's where I was introduced to Beth Anders and playing on a water-based surface, and absolutely fell in love with the speed of the game, the intensity of the game. And she did very well, and they actually won national championship as well. And actually, it's right here, which is kind of crazy, on this poster that I have in my office. And I'm actually in the stands up there. That's the 2000 year. I had gone to watch them at Old Dominion. My dad took me and one of my teammates and my friends there. So I remember getting the email asking to go on my official visit December of my senior year. I mean, now girls are committing July before their junior year, and they all get very, very nervous. So they think it's very interesting when I let them know that they have time to get recruited, and that I wasn't recruited until December for my incoming year. And I remember getting that email from Sue Myers, our assistant coach, and being so excited because if you were going on an official visit, that was your invitation. You knew that you're going to be invited to the team, and it was your choice if you wanted to go. So I went on one official visit. I applied to one school, and thankfully they had PE. I based my decision on field hockey, and I was going to make my education work. So I don't suggest that with many students to do nowadays. But that's what I wanted, and I was gonna make it work. So I was so excited to be a part of the history of that program, and I knew that my work was gonna be cut out for me. I was not a naturally skilled field hockey player. I was a workhorse and motivated, and I gave it my all, and I do not give up easily. So that's how I got there. But when it came to my hockey skill, this is my players by far, and I tell them all the time, they are so much more skilled than I ever was. Now the game has evolved a little bit, but it was amazing. And if I could do it all over again, I would. I'd probably change a few things about myself. I'm a different person now than I was then, but I loved my experience at ODU. It really developed me into the woman I am today. It was not easy whatsoever. Mentally, emotionally, physically, very, very demanding. But if you want to get far in life, you need those things. Sorry, my lights turn off on me if I don't move in my office. So it was great, and it was my first dream come true. That was the first goal that I'd set out for myself. And yeah, it's, if you want to play at that high level, you need a certain level of commitment and mentality. in order to get there.
While at Old Dominion, what was that experience like putting on that uniform? But also, what was that experience like going to the NCAA tournaments?
I don't quite remember what it was like the first time I put on the uniform, but I remember wearing the uniform with so much pride. We would bike into we played in what now is their football stadium. At that point, we didn't have football. It was called Foreman Field. And the football team used to play there, and that's where we played. So we had these huge stadium seats on either side, and our scoreboards had our national championships written on them. So every day we would go in and we knew what we were playing for and who we were playing for that laid that path before us. But we had a lot of confidence and a lot of pride and a little bit of cockiness when it came to where we played and wearing the uniform or anything that said Old Dominion on it, because we know we worked for it and we were going to put on that field the representation that our alums would be proud of. And we held ourselves to a high standard, just as our coach Beth Anders did. And we know that there were not many people who got to wear an Old Dominion uniform. And so we did not take that for granted whatsoever. Going to the first NCAA tournament. So I redshirted my freshman year, and the team, thankfully, we hosted the tournament that year. No, I'm sorry, that was the CAA tournament that we hosted. So because we were red shirts, you have roster restrictions that can go to tournament play. And there were 11 in my class, and 9 of us redshirted. 9 of us redshirted. So we weren't allowed to go. And so we couldn't dress because the team was so large at that point. But so we were left home for that first NCAA tournament that I was quote unquote involved with. So I was with my other freshman teammates and the upperclassmen who were left behind, and they didn't live stream the games back then. We had no way to watch the game. We had to wait and wait and wait until score and recheck the website until the score was released to find out whether or not we won the national championship remote or if we were going any further. So playing in it was an expectation and a standard. So I know when we went to Louisville, it was something we were so excited about going to that Final Four. It was freezing. I had never been so cold in my life. And I think that took us a little bit out of our element. We never wore Under Armour. It wasn't anything where we needed to wear cold gear. And that was the one game we wore cold gear. And it was very interesting. Maryland walks out and they don't have any cold gear on. And you're like, shit. Like it was a little bit of a mental thing at that point that we're like, man, why do I have cold gear on right now? Okay, I almost wanted to take off the cold gear because I wanted to seem like I was tough enough to be out there in that cold. But I don't even you forget your surroundings. You're so focused in on the game that it doesn't seem like an NCAA game to you. Or at least it didn't for me. We played at Louisville that year and the stands were packed. I remember walking out during warm-ups, and every time I walked out for warm-ups, I found my parents, because whenever I would score, I would point to my dad. And all 4 years of playing, I'd point to him and my mom whenever I would score. So I just needed to know where they were, and I found where they were. And only because my dad has this very distinct whistle, And so he knew I was looking for him, so he whistled so I could find him. And after that, I did not know how many people were there. I we played within that 60 by 100 yard area. I heard my teammates, I heard my coaches, but there was no other distractions. And because we had that much focus. And then when we ended up losing to Maryland in the first round, you want to get off the field as soon as possible because it's the end of the season. You just lost, and you lost in a way that you knew the next game was reaching your goals. And that's a lot to swallow. So much that you don't want to even go up for that trophy that you get to say that you went to the Final Four because you don't feel like you're deserving of it. Even though you work so hard because you didn't reach that goal. And after that game, our coach Beth had told us that she was proud of us. And I think that's the first time I had heard her say that to us. She did not give compliments freely or very often. But it was definitely character building. Unfortunately, that my senior year we lost to Princeton during Sweet 16s, I believe it was. So that was one chance for a national championship. Um, and that was my next goal, which wasn't accomplished. But we fought along the way, and it was truly a privilege and an honor to be able to play at Old Dominion and to go to the Final Four, where obviously many teams have not been able to go and to play.
After your college time, what was it like getting into coaching and getting started as an assistant coach?
So when I graduated from Old Dominion, I had my teaching degree. So I was applying for schools within the Virginia Beach, Northern Virginia area. But I also was looking for graduate assistant positions. I knew that I needed my master's to coach at the collegiate level. So I knew I could get that two ways, and that was either becoming a coach and a PE teacher and working on my master's while I did that, or looking for a GA position. I am not a test taker whatsoever, and I knew for my master's I was going to need my GRE, and thankfully Elmira did not require a GRE. My GPA was enough to get into grad school at Elmira. So I jumped at the chance and I applied to be a graduate assistant, which I was hired. And then during that interview, I met the athletic director, and she actually asked me a few questions, and I thought it was a little odd at the time. And here I found out when they called me to give me the GA, to offer me the GA position, and I accepted, they asked me if I'd like to apply for the head coaching position, because their coach, who at the time was head field hockey and head women's lacrosse, had taken a job at another school. So I obviously saw the challenge in front of me, and this is a better situation than what I had thought I was going into, and I don't back down from a challenge very easily. So I said yes, and I applied. And at the time, it was head field hockey and head women's lacrosse, and I had never played lacrosse. My high school didn't have it. I watched it in college. I watched it growing up. My dad played club lacrosse at Slippery Rock University, so I watched him play in adult leagues when I was much younger. But I played basketball growing up, and softball and soccer, so I knew that I just have to learn the rules and a little bit of the skill, and I knew that I could do it. So what ended up happening was the GA for lacrosse had applied as well, and Elmira was very smart about just splitting the position, where I was head field hockey assistant women's lacrosse, and the lacrosse coach was head lacrosse assistant field hockey. So it was very exciting. I I believe I'm a natural leader, so I liked that I could step into that leadership role right away. It was a little bit of a forced marriage between the two of us, and we had our bit of a rocky start, but we found a way to work together and to really mesh. And she actually is still coaching lacrosse today up in Massachusetts. So her name is Katie, and I see her. She's at an all-girls school in Massachusetts. So when we go to play UMass, she comes to the games. So it's really nice that we still have that support of one another. It was very different for me. When I was at Old Dominion, I don't think that we were ranked any less than eighth in the nation. And then I was coaching at a Division III institution that won one game a season playing on grass. So I knew as a GA that I could stand that for 2 years to get my master's. As a head coach and in charge, uh, I was ready to make some changes. I I say all the time, I probably should get all of those girls' addresses and send them "I'm sorry" notes, because I probably was a terror to play for with my competitive streak and my Division I mentality. Um, I loved all of them, and they were really great girls, but I had extremely high expectations for them. But like I tell my players now, I have high expectations for myself. So I don't hold them to any expectations, but I will not hold myself to. But I let everybody play, and we did the best we could. One game we switched it up where I put the backs at forward and the forwards at the backs. And we were trying anything and everything to make things work. I brought in stronger athletes, but when it comes to field hockey, the facilities and the funding really do play a big part in the game. And everybody else was playing on field turf at that time at the D3 level, and we were on grass that was a bit uncontrollable. So having an uncontrollable surface changes the game a lot, and trying to teach players to have foundation skills consistently when the outcome is not consistent is extremely hard. But it was a great experience for me. I learned that at that time I'm in the old age of you listen to your elders, you don't talk back, you do what you're told. And I took that into my first job. And the first time I spoke up, it was not accepted very well. And I did not like that feeling. And I didn't like the feeling of not giving my opinion, not sticking up for myself, not sticking up for my team. And I left that job because of differences within the university. So on my drive to California to coach there, I made the decision that I was no longer going to hide who I truly was, and to make sure that I was standing up not only for myself, but for my teams, because I did not ever want to teach young women by example to be quiet and to not stick up for themselves and to have a voice. So it was a good transition for me to go to California, because I was really able to then figure out who I was. And I needed that. But I learned a lot from my experience at Elmira, and being able to sit back as an assistant coach on the lacrosse side and see how someone else had coached also.
What was that experience like, going to UC Santa Barbara and being the club head coach for the field hockey program?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was very different than what I was used to. I had a full-time job at a privately owned residence hall, and my coaching job basically was part-time. So I was the head field hockey coach, and then I also coached lacrosse as well. And I had absolutely no say on who my team was, because I couldn't do any recruiting. I didn't have any scholarship to give. I needed to rely on the athletes that came into UC Santa Barbara and that they still wanted to play. The club leagues out there are co-ed. So you can have two male athletes on the field at one time. And that was a whole new experience for me. I never played, I played co-ed soccer growing up, but I never played co-ed field hockey. Now, the men's junior national team trains down in Moore Park, California, and they actually, a few of them lived in Ventura, so they would come up and they would practice with the team sometimes, which was a nice experience. And we had one of them on our club team. There are a lot of the USC players had some junior national team male players on it as well. And in California, you have Division I field hockey, you have club field hockey. So you end up getting a really good caliber of athletes that come to UCSB, and it's a very sought out school. It is right on the ocean. It is gorgeous. Academic wise was phenomenal. So I had very smart players also. We did very well. We won our club championships many times. But we only had practice 3 times a week for 2 hours. And we actually had a strength coach there for the club teams, which was exciting. So they did strength training twice a week, which was nice. It was a little bit more of an advanced program, but it was one that could have been on track to be pulled into the NCAA Division I programs if the university ever needed them. So women's lacrosse and women's field hockey were on that docket to be pulled up if needed with compliance. So it was a much different experience for me. I believe coaching lacrosse really helped because I never played lacrosse. So my passion for field hockey brings something out of me. And for lacrosse, I was a little less stressed about coaching, not in a bad way, but the energy that I exert was different because I could sit back and be a little bit more relaxed because this is a sport that I don't have years and years of experience in, or blood and sweat and tears and turf burn from, that I could sit back and have a different type of fun when it came to coaching. So I think that really helped me, and I could see how the players would develop with having a coach who didn't have the knowledge of being a field player, of being a player, because I think that really helps, and how they could still be successful. We won club championships with lacrosse, and I had never played before. So it was nice to see that what the girls needed and what the young women needed to develop. So that really helped me realize, okay, you don't need to be 100% like this, and you can bring a little bit of this and mesh it together, which I think really helped with my transition into coaching at Lock Haven.
Coming to Lock Haven, what was that experience like first becoming the assistant field hockey coach?
It was definitely different for me, as I had only been a head coach at the field hockey level. However, it was something that I needed, and I didn't realize I needed it at the time. And it was very nice to sit back and observe my predecessor, Pat Rudy, to see how she did things, how what she did affected me as an assistant and also as the athletes, and how they reacted and how I reacted. She gave me a ton of free will when it came to doing what I would like to do and taking on responsibilities that I would like. I took on more jobs, and I came into the position with the understanding that, one, I wanted to be a head coach, and too, she wanted to bring someone in to take over the program. So we had that agreement from the very beginning, which was extremely helpful. And I was so excited to get into Division One. And that just happened by chance, to be honest. I truly, in California, thought that my opportunity to get into Division One coaching was probably not going to be there because I had almost taken a step back. I had gone D3 down to club, which sometimes can be seen as a step back in levels, as the club teams were not in the NCAA. But we had an alum who was my middle school PE teacher, and then my middle school and my high school field hockey coach, who I was still friends with, and I confided in, and I let her know, hey, I'm moving home after this school year. Are there any PE teaching jobs available within our district? Because I had no clue what I wanted to do. I could go into teaching. I thought about going to the police academy. I thought about being a bartender. I was already a personal trainer. There's so many things that I could do, and I didn't know where I wanted to go. But I knew whatever I did, I wanted to be a part of a team. I could not imagine my life where I wasn't involved or surrounded by other people. And I knew that I did not want the desk job, the 9 to 5, you clock in, you clock out. That's definitely not my personality. So I let her know I was coming home, and she happened to be at 70th year anniversary for Lock Haven because she played at Lock Haven, and there Pat Rudy had announced that her assistant was leaving. So she went up to, we call Pat Rudy PR. She went up to PR and said, I have someone who I think you may be interested in, and I think would do a really good job here. And PR actually remembered my name because she recruited me after I'd already decided on Old Dominion. And so she told her, yeah, I remember that name. Old Dominion is a great university. I'm sure she knows her stuff. Have her apply. So I applied in May. I moved back in June. I had an interview in July, and then I was here. So it was, and on that interview was the understanding that she wanted to bring in someone to take over the program.
What was that
That
feeling?
sorry?
What was that feeling like getting to take over the program after Pat left?
It very exciting. It was something I'd been working for. So I essentially used my time as learning as much as I could. I did and got involved within the university as much as I could. I got involved in other programs within the university. I am part of our union representation, our coaches union, and I work with our social justice task force, which is in coordination with our chief diversity, equity, and inclusion officer here at the university. And I joined, I'm co-advisor of the Student Veterans Alliance. So I made sure that I was involved because I wanted to learn many aspects of the university and give back, but also to get out there and get to know people. Instead of picking up the phone, I would go over to their office. I walk over to their offices to have a conversation. I pulled anything that I could from PR work-wise to learn and to grow, just to be as prepared as I could on the administrative side. Head coaching, I know you deal a lot with the budget and scheduling and recruiting wise. And so anything administratively that she would let me do, I would take on, and I would run camps with her. We run a national indoor qualifier. So she gave me a lot of leeway to take on tasks that I would like to. I brought in some digital scouting reports. I introduced those to the girls. I introduced coding to the girls. So it was a great experience that she allowed me to have to then feel prepared to take over the program when she decided that she was ready to retire. It happened only a few days before preseason, so that was a bit of a whirlwind, and which had me entering the season without an assistant coach, which is a whole different experience in itself. And I learned a lot about myself this past season, and I grew, but I didn't want to wait to make any changes that I'd planned to make just because it was not an ideal situation. And I knew at some point we would have to find our balance and it would be a little rocky. And I I didn't want to lose the year with the freshman class, and have them and me make changes in the spring. So I made a lot of changes on them in the fall, and I knew I had to set that foundation in the fall so that when I did bring in an assistant for the spring, that that foundation would be laid and I wasn't trying to find my balance again, because it is going to get a little rocky and when you bring in an additional person. But now the players and I are all on the same page. I thankfully had some help with a part-time an alum who came back, who helped. And Colleen McCabe, she did a great job. She jumped in at practices and at games when she could because she had a full-time job as well. My leadership group and our captains really helped out greatly, especially our juniors. They really stepped up, especially when it came to off-field responsibilities, whether that was finding some place to eat on the road trip, some things that I would do as an assistant. The girls really stepped up to help out this year and pull their weight. So it everyone would say to me, "Are you excited? Like, how's it feel?" And I said, "I don't even know if I've had time to feel yet," because 5 days after BR said that she was retiring, the girls were coming in. And so I was in the thick of planning for preseason at that point. And I was making some immediate changes that took a lot of planning. So we all just jumped headfirst right in, and we made it work. And it wasn't pretty whatsoever, but I am extremely confident that the athletes that we're bringing in and the way that we're moving forward, we're going to make some big and some great changes when it comes to adding to how great the program already is and the foundation that our alums and our former head coaches have laid for us.
What was that feeling like the first time you got to step onto the Lock Haven field hockey field for the first time as a head coach?
A bit stressful. It was and a bit emotional. Because I didn't have an assistant, I was doing assistant responsibilities as well, making sure the camera was set up, the balls were out, the equipment was out. So many of those first game head coach items that other head coaches can just let to their assistants, I didn't have that luxury. Which was fine. I think I needed to keep myself a little busy. I also felt a little lost. I was so used to going and warming up the goalies before the game and keeping myself busy, and our student manager took care of that for me, and our part-time assistant coach took care of that for me. So I was kind of standing out there, what can I do? What can I do in problem solving, because we had an issue with camera. My family was there to support me. They live just north of Carlisle, so that's about an hour and 45-minute drive. My parents come to many of our home games, even as I was an assistant, and they were there. And as I was that morning, I was heading to the field and I was thinking, man, I really should have asked my brother to be here. He's only 16 months younger than me, and he lives in the same town my parents do. And man, I really should have asked him. I really would have liked him to be here. And then I see my parents pull in, and then I see my brother's truck behind them. So I went over to say hello, and I got all emotional because I was just so excited to have him there with me. And he's like, "Don't cry." I was like, these are happy tears. And as a head coach, that's something that's new for me is I don't know if I have cried so much in my life before. Happy tears and frustration tears happened a lot this season. But you have to live within those feelings um and I'm enjoying being able to make the decisions and enjoying making changes that hopefully benefit the girls. And I'm also feeling it when my those things that I try aren't working. And it was more emotional than I had anticipated. But when you put your heart and your soul and everything that you have into the program and into a job that you love, um, and it's your life, a big aspect of your life, I really try to have as much balance as possible, and I'm still working on that. It you it's not hard putting everything in your all into a group of young women who you care deeply about. And that's why I do it, is for the girls and for our team and the history that has been laid before us. And that's one reason I chose Lock Haven, is has such a rich tradition and history, just like Old Dominion did. I felt at home right away, and within the university I can make a big impact, which I know a lot of field hockey coaches don't have the opportunity to, or may not explore, because many Division I field hockey programs are bigger universities. And I have conversations with vice presidents all the time, and they know who I am. I can walk into our athletic director's office and have a conversation with him as well. So I really enjoy where I am, because I know that I can what I'm doing can make an impact not only on my student athletes but other student athletes within the university. Um, so so it's a great experience, and I know I'm not finished finding my way in this role whatsoever.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against each week?
So we are in the Atlantic 10 conference, and that is St. Louis, UMass, St. Joe's, LaSalle, VCU, Richmond, and Davidson. So the way that our schedule works is we can play 18 to 20 games a year in our championship season, which is in the fall. And we play everyone in our conference once until we hit playoffs. So half of them are away, half of them are home, and then the next year we switch. But A10 is a great conference. We're an affiliate in that conference because we are Division II institution. Um, Men's wrestling is Division I. They're in the MAC right now. So they're also an affiliate. And then the rest of our universities in the PSAC. So it's a very interesting and dynamic experience. But our counterparts within the A10, our other universities, are very accommodating, very nice to work with, and it's very competitive. We have St. Joe's and UMass and VCU who tend to be ranked, so it's great to play against them. LaSalle had a great year this year. Richmond is always a competitor. Davidson and St. Louis have new coaches, and they're really developing those programs. So it's great to see that the conference is just going to get stronger and more competitive, and that's what we need to be a better program. And we need more competitiveness within the conference. And I've scheduled our non-conference games for next year to be more competitive so that we can maintain our level of competitiveness within our conference as well.
What does that home game atmosphere look like when teams like Davidson comes to home?
It's exciting. It truly depends on if it's a Friday game or a Sunday game, to be honest. Because during Friday games, everyone is moving around the campus. Professors park in the parking lots that are right next to our fields. So they're stopping over at the games. The other athletes are stopping by as well. So our fence that is around our field could be surrounded by football and soccer and women's lacrosse, and other coaches are stopping up out of their offices to come and cheer us on. So it's a great experience. It also helps we have the soundtrack going for warm-up so that they know that the game is going on. And that's one thing with Lock Haven. A lot of our sports teams do go and support one another. And athletes are a core of Lock Haven, and it's nice to see them here and around. And then the stands are filled with parents and many times a lot of athletes that are coming that either are interested in the other team that we are playing or interested in us as well. So we turn that music up for warm-ups, and it's the start to get ready, and you have this high until that final horn goes off and the score, someone is in lead. So that could be overtime, that could be shootouts, that could be end of regulation. But it's a great atmosphere for us, and we really do enjoy it. And I know that our athletes really enjoy being at a smaller school because they know who's on the sideline and they know that their friends are coming to support them as well as their family and their professors.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes, and what do you look at as a head coach in them?
I look for someone as not just as a field hockey player, but as a student, as a individual. I understand that I have a personality of a certain caliber, and you need to want to play for someone who is going to give you a lot of feedback and who is going to be direct and who is passionate on the sideline and is not going to stand there and be quiet. I understand those things about myself. I also look for those athletes who are going to be a good person and a good teammate and want to give back to their university and their community, and someone who's going to do well in the classroom. As a field hockey player, they have to have a strong foundation of skills, because Division I is a big jump from high school. I mean, from high school to college is a big jump, but you go Division I, especially on our water-based surface, the game is faster, your knowledge is higher. You have to have your skills on point. We will win or lose games because we've either made or didn't make more mistakes than the other team. And you could have a good game, but if you make more mistakes than the other team does, or you don't finish when you have those opportunities, those little things are going to bring out the wins for us. So you need to come with that foundation skills set, but you also need to still have room to grow. I have a intuition, I guess. I can visualize and feel that a player has more to give. And I can see with their mechanics and their dynamic if they have room to grow and where else they can go. Now, whether they do that is completely up to that athlete, but when I watch an athlete, I say, okay, if I change this little bit about them, I know that I can get them a little further. Or if we just have them do this is going to take a little bit of time off of that cut. And I don't know if that's because I've been around sports my whole life. I don't know if that's because I have a passion for strength and conditioning, and I'm a personal trainer on the side as well. But I really like watching athletes play. I really like watching what they do after the mistakes that they make. And I like seeing them on the sideline and what they're doing when the rest of the game is going on. Are they paying attention? Are they engaged? There's so much that goes into an athlete than just their athletic ability. Are they passionate? Or can I tell that they get slightly frustrated on the field? But is that frustration arguing with the official, or is that frustration hustling back for their teammates to get the ball again and to make up for a mistake that they made? So those are the first steps when it comes to recruiting. And then it's a conversation with me, and to see how you feel about my honesty, and do you want to hear honest feedback? Are you willing to do the hard work and put in the extra time? Are you willing to fundraise and volunteer when you come here? Because if you're not, then this is not the place for you. We have lower funding, and I explain that to our student athletes many times. And if you want the August Christmas, and if you want that big flashy NLI amount, this is not the place for you. And I'm very upfront and honest with them about that. We're actually changing our process of how scholarship dollars are given, and for it to be more of a reward base after they come into the program. So I'm testing that theory, and we'll see. It may bite me in the butt. It might, it might be a new process when it comes to college athletics. And because I think many times athletes are choosing a school based off of the dollar amount they're given, and not living up to that standard, rather because they're given something before they're even producing at the college level, where if they come and they produce, and I then give them scholarship money based off of their performance. It's a reward system. And it's just like when you get a job after college, you get a salary, yes, but that's just to come. When you do well, you're going to get a raise and you're going to get a promotion. And I want them to understand that that's how life is, that you're just not given all this money and the expectation to perform is there. Your expectation is there already. We have team standards. You will earn that money when you come in. So I may be a little crazy, but I'm willing to try new things, and make adjustments when they're needed to try to get a different end result. So we'll see how that pans out for us. And I want to give our athletes money. I want them to earn that scholarship dollar. And I'll continue to fundraise and speak with donors as much as I possibly can, and try to give athletes within our ability, whether that's financial wise or NCAA wise. But I would rather tell them, you've earned this money, and then be proud of themselves than not, and to do well in season and there not be a reward at the end other than you did a really great job.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing your freshmen put on that Lock Haven jersey for the first time?
It's exciting because you get to see their faces. A lot of what I do is actually, I would say everything that I do is for our team and for our players. That's why I coach. I love seeing their successes. I try to help them through their challenges, and I tell them, you're gonna fumble a little bit. And it's the same look on their faces when they've fumbled and then they've succeeded. And when they put on that uniform, and they really take a lot of pride in it, and they need that pride to continue and to push through those challenging times, and to remind them that they are playing for the team that's listed on the front of the jersey. That's why they're here. And there's reasons there's not names on the back of our jerseys, is because we're playing for the person who is next to them. We're playing for the person who is on the sideline. We're playing for the alums who also wore that same name and has laid the foundation for us before them. So, and they're laying the foundation, the pathway for those to follow them. So they have a lot of pride in where they've come from, and they have a lot of pride of where they're going and who's coming after them. And they completely understand that it's their team. And even though there's individualized accolades, that player got there because of all of them. And that player may just have succeeded a little bit more than the others, but that they could not have done it without their teammates' help at all. So it is so great to see how excited they are and how much pride they have when they put on that.
What is it like as a head coach seeing them for the first time putting it on versus for the last time?
That expression is also changing for them. It is such a difference whenever they have that pride that last time that they put on, but it's very sad because they know that they've had 4 really great years and that they're never going to have this again. It's Field hockey isn't a sport unless you're going overseas. You can play in clubs and professional. We do have our women's master's programs. And unless you're going to go try out for the national team or you've been invited to the national team, many of our college student athletes, this is the last time they're putting on that jersey. And it's definitely the last time they're going to be playing with their teammates that they loved so much at a school that they've spent a lot of time with and they put their heart and their soul and into. And it's one that we love to celebrate our seniors before the game, but then we know when that first whistle goes, you're playing, you got to play like normal. You have to treat every single game like it's the only one you're going to get. And you cannot wait to that last game to turn anything on. So I would say it's still a sense of pride. It's just a different type of pride that the seniors are feeling compared to our freshmen.
What is it like getting as a head coach seeing those players go on into coaching after their playing career?
That's a very proud moment. We have a lot of alums who are at the club level. We have some that are at the college level as well. I'm competing against some of our alums, Lock Haven alums, not alums that I have coached just yet. I hope it one day gets there. Now we currently have a junior who wants to get into coaching, so I believe she will do an amazing job when it comes to coaching. So I'm excited to see where she goes. But I'm proud of all of our alums when they leave and they go into their careers. I try to keep tabs on them as much as I possibly can. Many times that's through Facebook and our alumni page. But no matter what they choose to do in life, I hope that we have given them the tools that they need to be successful and in their careers and in their life with families and with friends, and that they've become or a little closer to becoming the woman that they're meant to be, and that they're proud of what they're accomplishing. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how proud of them I am and how much I love them, they have to be proud of themselves and they have to love themselves. And that's really what I'm trying to get our young women to get closer to accomplishing as they go through their 4 years, because college is not easy, but you start to really learn who you are and who you want to be. And sometimes it just takes a little longer to get there. But everyone who leaves our program is going to be successful in whatever they do.
What are some of your future plans for the Lock Haven program moving forward?
To make our alums and our previous coaches proud of us, to build those women into strong, vocal women in society and in life, to help them build their lives and their careers, and to continue to build the program to what it's been and what it can be. We have a stronger schedule next year, and I might be a little crazy again for putting it out there, and we may have another struggle year. But when I look at the team, I'm not looking at it as it currently is now. I'm looking at it where I want it to be. And that's competing and doing well against those stronger teams. I tell the players all the time, the biggest difference between those teams that are playing in the NCAA tournament and us is their consistency of their foundation skills and their knowledge. And I tell them, I've played in a Final Four. I've played in NCAA tournaments every single year that I played. They are not any different than I am. And I think that with these groups coming up, their skill is so strong. They have to be okay with putting in the work and not getting a instant gratification and knowing that you're going to fall and be okay with falling. Because if you're falling, you're trying and you're not going to fall for long. You said you didn't run right away. You had to learn how to crawl. You had to learn how to walk and you fumbled a lot and you fell a lot and you had to pick yourself up a lot before you got to the chance of running. And then you had to learn how to play field hockey. And I think a lot of the athletes, many times, especially the freshmen, they think that they've learned field hockey when they get to us and they realize that they didn't. There's a lot that they don't know. They didn't realize how fast the game could be, how much knowledge that they need. So we're really working to build up that standard, that team standard of knowledge and skill, and that expectation individually to get them to be a team that when someone says Lock Haven, they know that we are a strong Division I competitor. That they know that Lock Haven is a Division I team. We still sometimes get confused and put in that D2 bracket because Lock Haven is a Division II institution. But we really want to work to make that name for us, for ourselves, and to be a program that athletes beg to come to, and that we are in those A10 record books, and we're making it to our first goal is to make it to the A10 championships. And then our next goal is to make it to an A10 to win an A10 championship and get on to the NCAA circuit. So that's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take us a few years, but right now what's being done is to lay the foundation and pave that road for us to get there. So right now, like your question previously for recruiting, I'm looking for athletes with that same vision in mind, that same one in mind.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of college field hockey?
Be extremely consistent in your foundation skills. Reverse hits are not a foundation skill. Forehands are. Passing, receiving, hitting, 1v1 defense. You know how to play 1v1 defense, every single college coach will want you. And be fit. I was just on a recruit call last night with a player and I said, in high school, I didn't need to train. I played 3 sports. I could come to preseason. I could outrun everybody. I was fine. I died my freshman year of college. I did what I needed to do in high school. And that's what high school players do. You need to train like you're ready for college. Do the workout packets that your college coaches send out to you. Start a strength training program now. Learn about nutrition now. If I would have known about the nutrition that I know about now compared to what I did before, oh my goodness, I would have been I would have been so much better off than what I am. And nutrition is we need to fuel our bodies to be able to compete, to build muscle, and to not be afraid of muscle either. And that's something our players are learning is that they can lift heavy and not look like men. So I would say have those core foundation skills as consistent as you possibly can. Be fit, learn about nutrition, and just remember why you play. Continue to have that drive. Do not choose to play in college because somebody else wants you to play, because that's not going to be worth it. You have to love where you're going. You have to love what you're doing day in and day out. So you remember on those hard days, because there will be hard days.
What advice would you give those college athletes out there that are looking to get into professional field hockey for the national team?
So professional would be over in Europe. And there are some programs that I know England has a university that has a master's program that they can play over there. You're going to need to compete in college and compete well. And then I believe they have a tryout period when you go over professionally. For our national team, you have to compete. You have to be one of the best in the nation. to get an invitation. You have to perform at the college level, and you have to be one of the best. If you're not one of the best, you're not going to be asked to a roster of 24, 26 to represent USA on the Olympic team. It's very, very limited. There's hundreds of athletes who play in college. So if that's your ultimate goal, you need to start young. And I wouldn't say only compete in field hockey. Like right now, we're starting to see this trend where we're getting only field hockey players coming to college. And when you get only field hockey players that come to college, they aren't they are not as athletic as multi-sport athletes. They're not as mobile. They're not as diverse. Many times they're not as creative because they have nowhere to pull from but what they've learned strictly with field hockey. You need to be able to look outside of your box. You need to watch field hockey at the higher level to see what they do. But just field hockey players, I believe, have a little bit more of a disadvantage because you need to know how to box out in basketball. You need to know an inbounds play and how to eliminate a defender. You need to know how to ground a soft ball so you get low in field hockey. Like there's so many different things that you can pick up from playing other sports that you don't get just playing one sport. So try and keep your options open at a young age so that you develop your athletic ability to play at the highest level that there is. And then you obviously are going to want to be seen within the USA track, and you do that through Nexus with the USA development programs.
What advice would you give those college field hockey players out there looking to get into college coaching after their playing career?
Get involved as soon as you possibly can with working camps over the summer, doing shadowing with your coaches, picking up any extra tasks that they may have for you. Look into GA positions. Coaching is very different at every single school and at every different division. My D1 coaching experience is much different than those that I compete against. Here at Lock Haven, I have to fundraise. I have to work with alumni relations. I have to set up alumni events, host camps and clinics. I'm doing my scheduling. I'm doing my budget. I'm the nutritionist for our team. I'm our strength and conditioning coach. I am booking hotels for us. I do every aspect for our program. I do social media. So there is a lot that I do, and not all college coaches do that. So knowing that if you are at a UNC or a Maryland or a Duke or a Penn State, you're not going to have all these responsibilities. But there's only about 83 positions. There are only 83 head field hockey coaches. So, and not all of them are exactly the same. Some have less work to do than I do. And that's okay. But there are understanding the different aspects of a coach's job that you have is so important. It is just not coaching. I meet once a month with all of my athletes, and that's just scheduled. That's not the times that they come in for coffee hour to talk. There's counseling that I do. There's scheduling that I do. The first day of scheduling classes, they were having a lot of issues. I was at the registrar's office helping my athletes change that. Some schools have, and when I was in school, someone did my schedule for me. I gave them my classes, they scheduled it. I never had to worry about that. My athletes have to worry about that. I have to worry about that. Study halls, I have to worry about. So every job is different, but knowing what you're getting into and understanding that coaching is the fun part, but that's a very small part of what we do. Recruiting is important. Do you like recruiting? One thing I did enjoy at UCSB is kind of took the stress off of me not recruiting. I had what I had to work with it. But it's also fun that I get to choose those athletes who I want to come in, and I get to create and mold the team that I would like to work with. So really understanding the job, and it's not just what everybody sees. It's not always glit and glam. We work a lot of hours. We work long hours. We work weekends. We work some holidays. But I truly understanding and getting into coaching because you want to, and it has to be a selfless want. You can't do this job because you want to be front and center. I hate being front and center. This podcast is a little different and outside of my realm for me because I would rather have the athletes doing the talking than myself, because they should be front and center. The university should be front and center, and I want to be the worker bee behind, just pulling the strings, making things run well. And that's what a coach needs. A coach needs to want to do it for their athletes and to see their athletes succeed, not see themselves succeed. Because if you have a selfish mindset, it's never going to work.
What advice would you give those coaches like yourself that are taking over a program's legacy following their previous predecessor?
Give yourself a lot of grace and find some time for yourself. As many coaches who are wanting to get here, and especially to this level, you naturally put a lot of pressure on yourself. Meal prep, so you remember to eat. Get a lot of sleep. But make sure that you have a very strong foundation around you. I know that I would not have survived this first year if I didn't remember to smile and to laugh, if I did not have our athletic trainer with us, not only to keep our athletes healthy, but also to make sure that I had a home cooked meal every Monday. And as someone to bounce ideas off of, and who was a good friend of mine. I have my parents who are there and very supportive of me and the team, and they cut up orange slices for our girls for halftime, or apples, and my dad brings chocolate milk for after the games. So they're my biggest supporters, and I wouldn't be able to do it without them. Having an administration that is extremely supportive as well is so important. So spending that time and getting to know your administration is key to ensuring that you're going to have success. You're going to have support when things are going wrong or going bad. Our athletic director, Tom Jallio, was very supportive of me moving into this position and throughout the season, especially with our fundraising. Our vice president, Stephen Lee, brought me in halfway through the season just to check in to make sure I was okay and I was doing well. Our chief diversity, equity, inclusion officer, Albert Jones, was very supportive and at our games, helping us out. And whenever the girls needed a pep talk, he was there to give it to them. And I don't think that that's common within other universities. So create those relationships and introduce your recruits to them when you come on campus. But also you need the support of the players, and you need the support of the alums as well. I wouldn't be able to get through this year if I didn't have my players. I have players who would stop in to make sure I was okay and if I needed anything. And that's based off of the relationship that I have with them, because I'm always checking in with them to make sure they're okay and if they need something and they see me working hard for them. So I think that that's important. You can't require anything of your athletes, if you don't require it of yourself and showcase it of yourself. I check in with them daily as they're warming up. Everybody has either their secret handshake or they want a hug, and so they know that I'm there for them, and I know that they're there for me, because I wouldn't have a job that wasn't for them, and I wouldn't be able to do this if it wasn't for them. And then the alumni support is so important. Having them there and watching the games and helping to create scholarships and funding for the team to give those scholarship dollars to those athletes who have earned it is so very important to all that we do. So there is, and then within the university, you have to have your other coaches who are supportive and your other athletes who are supportive. So it is, I mean, they say it takes a community to raise a child. It's the same thing. This is my baby, and I know that I need all of that support around me to be successful, and to remind me to give myself grace and to eat and to get some sleep and to take some time off, and that it will be okay. I have other coaches in other areas that I've reached out to. I have a friend who is the head lacrosse coach at Mercer University, and he just stepped into his first year coaching men's lacrosse after being an assistant for a good amount of time. I called him up because he had a season under his belt, and I'm like, do you have any advice? Like, help me through this. So having those people that you can reach out to. And then within the field hockey world, I have a good friend, Mimi Smith. She played at Old Dominion. She played on the national team, both outdoor and indoor. She's a Hannah Broderick Award winner. She just had her second year state championship. It's her second year coaching, back-to-back state championships in Maryland at a private school in Maryland. I call her and rely on her as well as some of the other coaches that I compete against. You cannot do this job by yourself, and you need to have that support system. So find that support system, find time for yourself, give yourself some grace, and always keep in mind what your end goal is, understanding that you need to meet yourself where you currently are, not where you want to be. Because if you expect to be where you want to be right now, that's going to be a very stressful time. And sometimes you just have to cry and let it out, and it will all be okay. Because it's going to be frustrating. It's going to be emotional. Things will come up that you can't prepare for. But as long as your athletes have a smile on their face at the end of the day, and they know that they can come to you for advice and for help, you know that you're doing your job and you're doing well, and the wins will come. Someone has to win, someone has to lose. But the product that you put out on the field, like the product that you give every single day, is what's most important.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media along with the Lock Haven Field Hockey Program at?
So the Lock Haven Field Hockey Program we're on Facebook, and we are on Instagram, and that's at LHU Field Hockey. And then Instagram is LHU_field_hockey. So really great places. Keep an eye on us. We release a newsletter that actually one of our juniors writes for us every month, and I put that up on the Facebook page. So it's a good time to check us out. And then if you go to our schedule, you can click on the link to watch us play. Our games are streamed for free within the PSAC network.
Thank you again, Coach Anna Rogers, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as the head field hockey coach at Lock Haven.
Very much. Appreciate it.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you'll find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Anna Rogers, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thanks. You too.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.